everyone. Welcome to the Create Your Life interview. I am your host, Miss Erin Tarr. I am the head coach of the Fierce and Flourish Groups for Girls. And today I have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Brusek, and she is a doctor of veterinary medicine. And she's going to share so much goodness and so much wisdom with us today about what it takes to become a veterinarian and what your life looks like as a veterinarian. So I'm excited for you to tune in and can't wait to hear what she has to say. First of all, everyone, welcome to our very first Fierce and Flourish Create Your Life interview. Give yourselves like little snaps for being here. I'm so excited, and thank you to our guest. Our featured guest. We'll introduce her a little bit more in a minute. But the first thing I want to ask you girls real quick, drop in the comments if you have ever thought about at any point in your life possibly becoming a veterinarian or working with animals in some way in your career. Emmeline says yes. Adrianne and Finley say yes. Sound good, guys? Everybody ready? Give me a thumbs up. Right. I think my first question is, Addie, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are, how to pronounce your name, what you should be called, all that stuff?
Okay, so my name that I go by is Adrianne, Dr. Adrianne Brusek. Most people that know me call me Addie. Most of my clients call me Dr. Brusek. I have been practicing now, I'm going into my 17th year of being a vet. Yeah. So I started, I did my schoolwork at U of I, the College of Vet Med there. It was 4 years after I had done 4 years at DePaul, where I studied biology and German.
Wow. Well, awesome. Thank you again so much for agreeing to be our very first guest. I knew that several girls are interested in animals and being a veterinarian and that type of work. And so I definitely was like, we need to get an amazing female veterinarian on here. And you were the first name that came to mind. So I would love for you to start off telling us a little bit about what your day looks like as a veterinarian.
The first thing I do when I come into work every morning is we have a stack of papers that come in for emergencies that happened overnight. So any of the animals that we normally see at our practice, if they had something happen when we weren't open, they would go to an emergency clinic. So we have papers that we look over, and then we have, if someone needs medicine or they have questions, we have papers to go through for that. So that's where I start my morning. Then I will look at our computer schedule, and it tells me who I'm going to see for the day and what I'm going to be looking at. And so I'll often look at my records, try to figure out what am I seeing, what do I need to get ready for the day, what equipment will I need, how do I prep my technicians for everything, and then I start making callbacks. I usually have a list of people that I need to call, so I spend the first part of my morning calling people, and then about 9 o'clock I start seeing appointments. I'm lucky because I have a bunch of wonderful ladies that I work with that are assistants and technicians, and they also help me prep for the morning, getting our machines ready and making some phone calls for me and helping get all of that stuff ready too.
Awesome. One of the girls wants to know which vet office you work at.
I work at one called Green Paws Veterinary Care. It's in LaGrange, Illinois, which is just outside of Chicago.
Awesome. And then so you see, how many animals do you get to see in a day usually?
Somewhere between 15 and 20.
Wow, that is a lot of patience.
Yeah.
And how long is the shift that you work?
It's about 8 to 9 hours, depending on the day.
Wow. And do you get a lunch break?
I do.
Wow, interesting. Another question. They have lots of really good questions. I'm so excited. You guys are killing it with the questions. Are there different types of vet who so you know how we have dermatologists and we have pediatricians and we have OB-GYNs, like how many different types of veterinarians are there?
So I'm a general practitioner. There are criticalists, so those are ones that do all emergency medicine. And there are dermatologists, there are cardiologists, so they do all related to the heart. There are surgeons, there are soft tissue, and then there's orthopedic surgeons. There are oncology doctors, so they do all cancer. We have neurologists, so they study anything that has to do with the nerves, the brain, and movement. We have rehab doctors.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So the next question that I had for you was a little bit about your educational path from high school, which you touched on a little bit, but I'd like to delve into it just a little bit more. But In speaking to that, can you speak to like at what point someone would become a specialist and where that fits in?
Yeah. So everyone starts with going to college. You don't have to necessarily graduate from college, but you have to have enough credits to get to vet school.
Interesting. You don't have to graduate with a 4-year degree in order to get into vet school.
Nope, you do not. You just have to meet the requirements. And then there's a fairly decent test you have to take, and if you can pass the test, and then there's interviews, and you have to get through the interviews. But once you go to vet school,
what is the name of the test that you have to? So is it like they have the GMAT and they have the GRE and they have all these different tests to go to different types of school. What is the test for veterinarians?
So it used to be the GRE, but now I believe they've gone back to the VCAT, which is a specific test for veterinary medicine.
And you have to score a certain amount on that in order to get your interviews, and then you get your interviews. And then how hard is it to get into vet school?
So generally there is about 10,000 interviews or 10,000 applicants per year, and there is roughly 2,000 spots. Yeah.
Wow. And did you get in the first time that you applied?
I did.
Yay, good job.
Yeah, I did. And you know, I think I always knew I liked science. That's what I studied when I went to undergrad. I loved it in high school. That's where my passion started. I had some pretty incredible teachers. I was very encouraged when I went to college to continue studying, and I again had some pretty incredible professors that continue to encourage that study in science. And then I was very lucky. I had an advisor who one day, I didn't know that I wanted to go to vet school when I went to college.
Wow.
I actually thought I was going to go into human medicine, but I worked in human medicine and I didn't really like it. And I remember having a talk with my college advisor and saying, boy, I really like science and I really like studying and investigations, but I really don't like working in the human field. And he said, hey, I think there's an opportunity. There's a class that does a lot of studies with lions, tigers, and cougars. Maybe you should take it. And it is the class that I took that absolutely changed the trajectory of what I ended up doing because I loved it. It was amazing. It was a phenomenal class.
Awesome. That's amazing. So one thing that I want to highlight for the girls that I heard you say, but I want to, girls, make sure that you heard this part, to make connections with those people who can help you make wise decisions for your future. So I just want to highlight that. Correct me if I misinterpreted your words.
No, absolutely. No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. It was the teacher of the CAT class that said to me, hey, I think you should consider applying to vet school. And honestly, never had even crossed my mind as something to do until she had talked to me about it. And then once I looked into it, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
That's amazing. And that feeling feels so good, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So after you got accepted to vet school, you were one fifth of the whatever, I think 1/5. I said 1/4 earlier because I math on my head. It's 1/5 or 1/4. I don't know. Either way, you got accepted into vet school. Vet school was how long?
4 years.
And then what did you have to do after vet school?
So you don't have to do anything after vet school. So your last year of vet school is where you are working in the hospitals with other veterinarians.
Two kind of questions. Is this a good field if you want to travel and if you want to have a family?
It can be a really good field if you want to travel, but not generally as a general practitioner. So that's usually going to be as a specialist, and they travel mostly to give lectures at different conferences. And those conferences take place all across the US, Canada, and Europe. And then there are different companies, like drug companies, that make medications that have veterinarians on staff. And they do a lot of traveling because they travel all around to talk about the medications, give lectures on it, do those types of things. So that's where you'll do most of your travel.
Yeah. What about having a family? Tell us a little bit about your family. Tell them how many kids you have and what your life looks like a little bit.
Okay, so I have 4 kids. My husband is also a veterinarian.
Couple questions from the girls. Emmeline said, do you give a lot of injections?
I do every day, lots of injections.
Really? So that's very common.
Yeah.
So making sure you have the right kind of medicine and then figuring out where to stick it.
Yep. Yeah.
So foreign to me because I am so not this is not at all anything. I didn't grow up with pets. We don't have pets. This has never been an interest of mine. So I'm glad that our girls like it, and I'm glad they're asking interesting questions. Adson and Finley wanted to know, do you deliver animal babies very often?
I don't, but my husband does. The type of dogs he works a lot with are Bulldogs, and they have a lot of difficulty giving birth. My children have actually all been there present when we had to do a surgery to get out 8 Bulldog puppies.
8 Bulldog puppies. Oh my goodness. Because that kind of goes into the next question that Abby asked. And Abby is one that I know is very intent on being a veterinarian, and her grandpa is a veterinarian, but she wants to know, what was the scariest surgery that you ever did?
I had a dog that had eaten pantyhose, so tights, and they got stuck in multiple areas in the belly. And so it was a lot of stuff to have to work very delicately through. It took a very long time, and we had to do, and there was a lot that was involved with it, and I just kept thinking, I really just want to get through this. I really just want to get through this. I really just want to get through this. But very lucky to have really supportive other doctors that came in and helped and talked me through it. And the dog has done super, super, super well. But yeah, that I was a little bit white.
Yeah. And I definitely heard you mention several times, and this is something I want to highlight to the girls, your team. You have a team of other doctors and of vet techs and of assistants that are helping make this happen for you. And that's a really important part. And so tell us about what it's like to actually work on a team that's functioning well, and how do you help it function well?
I think it's a lot about my mindset when I go into it. I know that I need them. I cannot do my job by myself. I need help. And so it is, and I know that they need my help. So it is trying to go in there with that mindset that we're there to help each other, and we're there to help the animals. And that's our main goal. That's our number one goal.
Dahlia was asking, based on, I think, what you talked about, that your husband works with Bulldogs, can you specialize in one specific type of animal, and what would that look like?
Generally not. So generally, you mostly generalize into small animal medicine. I guess in large animal, they do a little bit more specialty, where some people will just do cattle work. Some people will just do work with horses. But more times than not, you work with all breeds. And he is a small animal veterinarian. His clinic just sees a lot of Bulldogs. They have some unique characteristics. And so having someone that has extra knowledge in that is helpful, but he definitely sees more than just Bulldogs.
That makes sense. What advice would you give some of our girls, or anyone that's interested in going in this field? If they are already thinking like, this is something I might be interested in doing in some way, working with animals, what advice would you give them now?
Get experience working in shelters, because most of them are great places and love young volunteers to come in and help. That's a good place to get exposed to a variety of different animals and species and ages.
Dr. Brusek, thank you so much for giving back to my girls in this way. We so appreciate you being our very first guest on our Create Your Life interview. I learned a lot, and I'm sure they learned a lot. And all the girls are saying thank you. Marin says thank you. Avery says thank you. I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. If you did, and you want to learn more about what it takes to choose your thoughts, create a life you love, and ultimately change the world, you want to connect with me. You can find me at www.erintarr.com, or on Facebook at Erin Tarr at Be The Benchmark, or look me up on Instagram, be.the.benchmark. I would love to connect with you and share more about how you can choose your thoughts, create your life, and change the world. Have a great one.